Hello, this is John Landers here from TBAIMS. Used to be the Big Apple Indie Music Series in New York. Now it's the Best Artist Indie Music Series, also known as Connecting Through Music for going forward. I have with me today Cassandra Kubinski. Okay. I have Cassandra Kubinski here. She was actually one of my. Where am I going here? She actually performed for us back in April of 2013 at Gibson Guitar Studios, and also in August of 2014 at Toshi's Living Room on 26th and Broadway. Thank you for joining me today, Cassandra. Welcome to this new interview that I'm starting.
Awesome. Hey, John, it's so good to see you. And wow, you're taking me back. Those were awesome days at the Gibson showroom that is no more, and at Toshi's, which I'm not sure that that's there either, but
Sadly, since the pandemic, most of the venues that I'm aware of are gone, with the exception of the Cutting Room and one or two maybe others, but most of them are no longer existing because of the pandemic.
yeah. I mean, a few, Rockwood Music Hall and the Bitter End and the Cutting Room, the Triad, a bunch of places that I used to play are still there. But yeah, definitely some spaces didn't make it, sad to say.
Yep. So I have basically 10 questions for this interview
Cool.
that I want to ask. And first is when did you first realize that music was your calling?
I have been a musical person forever, and I've enjoyed expressing myself through sound and through singing, really as far back as I can remember. So I think as far as recognizing that it was more than a hobby and that it was, a calling to create and to do that with my life and to have that be the thing that I was going to contribute, I would say that happened more around college. So, I had been a professional musical theater actress as a kid. I was in chorus and dance classes and plays and, summer camps and all of that. But I don't think I really honed in on wanting to be a professional songwriter until I went to Florida State, actually. And
Oh,
yeah, that's where I went to school. And I had this vision of performing on a big stage with, the lights cutting through the fog, and I'm at a grand piano on the stage. And that was really where the vision coalesced that I really wanted to write and perform my own songs.
nice. And so who are your influences in music?
So definitely Billy Joel is a huge influence on me based on all of the listening. I mean, I've been listening to him since I was in the womb. And I love his writing. I love his music. And I love his perspectives on life and relationships that he weaves through his music. Musical theater is a big influence on me too. Again, I was an actress working at Goodspeed, now Goodspeed Musicals, then the Goodspeed Opera House in
Mhm.
Connecticut. You'll see the shows behind me, Annie and Moret. Those were my first two shows, two professional shows. So yeah, so musical theater and kind of the entire canon of American musical theater, especially folks like Stephen Sondheim. And then later on, when I did start to write in college, it was writers and artists like Alicia Keys, Vanessa Carlton, Nora Jones, John Mayer, Sarah Bareilles. So those are some artists that really continue to inspire me now.
Very cool. And what have been your challenges in getting your music career started?
Ooh, getting it started. It's interesting because I'm almost 20 years down the line of being into, living and working in New York. So I moved in 2004 to New York. And I would say I kind of look at that as the beginning of my music career versus my theater and acting career. So with music, the challenges, as you know, there's always another different new challenge to navigate. And kind of like once you
Mhm.
think you've figured something out, there's like another thing to figure out. But if I try to think back on what was actually the challenge starting out, um, I would say, of course, access. So
Yes.
finding the right people who are going to understand my music and be able to help me to focus my vision. I worked with a lot of different people on that. And I feel like sometimes that's still a challenge because I have so many ideas of what I want to do, that really focusing that vision and keeping the ball moving in one direction can sometimes feel like a challenge. But I think, yeah.
Let me ask you, so since the inception of the internet, what do you find the changes are going on since the internet came into play? Because before that, it was more getting out there and actually doing stuff and meeting people and all that. But then the internet came along and all of a sudden things change.
It did. So, but my entire career has existed inside of the time of the internet. So I was not working at all. I was not trying to put out music before the internet. I did come into the business right at the cusp of the DIY, do it yourself movement. So that I would say is I can speak more to that because, you know, I don't know my career without the internet. It's like everything that I've done, you know, creating music, I immediately put those demos on CNET or download.com. My first EP that I made, I was recording in 2004 and released in 2005. That came out, I put it out through CD Baby, and you know, everything was on the internet. So there was no moment where I wasn't utilizing the internet for distribution, for marketing, for connection, for pitching, and you know, getting booked. But I would say that in 20 years since then, the biggest changes I've seen are just the evolution of what kind of started then, like this idea that we as creators not only can lead our own careers and play every role inside of our careers, but that in some ways I feel like there's often pressure that you should do that, you know, not just that you can, but that you should. And I'm not sure that that's been very productive for artists, you know, this kind of like buying into the whole concept that like they have to be their own producer and their own publicist and their own label and publisher and marketing team, and you know, go find their own a la carte legal services. I think that gets very overwhelming for artists, so I'm a little bit more prone to look towards the incorporating more of the traditional model for myself, you know, not to say that anybody else should do that. And that's, you know, that's after spending decades being like a hardcore DIY artist. So for me, I sort of feel like I'm almost going like back to the old way in the way that I'm creating my team now. And the internet has brought gifts along that path and also challenges along that path.
So are you your own label?
So yeah, I have an imprint called Sunchild Entertainment through which I release almost all of my work. I often have different, like a whole different team of partners on each release, depending on who I made the music with, you know, which kind of other artists I invited in to help create visuals and graphics and videos and whatnot. So I have not ever had one steady label that was releasing my music. And that's definitely something I'm actually very interested in, because we kind of know where we can take it to, you know, in the independent space with kind of the pattern that my team runs. We kind of know how far we can take that. But I think that there's a lot of potential in working with a label, you know, a really great experienced label that that's all they do all day is market music. I think that we'd make a great team.
Yeah. So, I mean, because one of my questions was how do you view how labels treat clients these days? And I mean, I hear all kinds of stories on that, you know, that they take advantage of them and they lose their freedom to what they want to do with their music or direction, and they get more dictated to what they have to do. And that gives you more freedom to do it yourself when you can control it.
Yeah, I think everybody's independent or experience is independent, of course. I look at it more like, you know, I think everything that you're saying is possible. It's happening. We've all heard the horror stories. And I think that it's prudent to pay attention to the cautionary tales. But I also think that our entire industry is based on this creativity that is subjective, and relationships are also always ebbing and flowing. And I think that any relationship that we might choose as artists or as promoters, I mean, for what you're doing as well, when I met you, we have a certain relationship, and in my opinion, that relationship has been fruitful and has worked well because of clear expectations on both sides, because of clear communication, organization.
Transparency.
Yeah. So I think, I hear you that, of course you can get, caught up in a label system and misled or pressured into being something that you're not. Maybe it's a little naive of me, but I still think that, you can avoid a lot of that by just making sure that you have extensive clarity at the beginning, and you don't sign anything before you've actually co-created, instead of just saying, oh my God, I want a label deal. Hooray, I got a deal. And now I just sit back and get famous. Like, that is not what I think at all.
You need a good entertainment attorney for that.
Yeah, I mean, but I look at any relationship that I enter as a co-creation. And from the beginning, I don't want us to ink a deal or certainly bind ourselves contractually without feeling really confident that we both know what the overall vision is. We agree on it. We both are like, yes, we actually want to go achieve that vision together. And that we at least have some agreement about the strategies that we think we're going to employ to do that, and from there, all right, like now everybody puts forth their best effort, and we go forth and we make that happen. Hopefully it does happen and we all celebrate the win together. And if it doesn't happen, there also needs to be clarity from the beginning of the deal on what do you do if it doesn't happen, right? Like if it's not working out, there has to be mutually agreed upon kind of out clauses. And I think a lot of artists don't get that, or they don't fight for that, or they don't know to get that, so yeah, so that's kind of my thought as far as like how labels treat clients. I wouldn't really be able to say because I don't have one, but I'm interested in the stories from people who do have a label, and I'm also interested in discovering who the best partners for me will be. And I personally believe that we're going to have a very fruitful relationship because of creating that clarity together.
Okay. And what's the most effective way you market your music?
There are a few. So, marketing music is such a big topic, and I look at it as, what's your end game? So if your end game is to you get people to buy downloads, for instance, there might be a path to do that that's different than if what you're looking for is to increase your audience at shows. So for me right now, I'm in a phase where I'm looking to perform a lot more. I have performed a lot, but I haven't performed a lot consistently. For instance, on a tour or like in a Broadway show, or something where it's like you're singing pretty much every night, 4 to 5 days a week you're performing. That is something that I'm interested in doing. So for me right now, marketing looks like creating an audience for those shows. And the way that I'm going about that is through my email list. Email is really high up there on a very, it's very effective for connecting with people and staying in touch with people. I do use social media. I don't absolutely love being on social media, but I employ YouTube.
Pros and cons. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. I am on TikTok. I haven't really developed TikTok that much, but I'm there with some material. Word of mouth, of course, we just really encourage our fans to talk about us, talk about the show that they saw. And we just recently got into some ads, like utilizing social ads and buying ads on, I think mostly Facebook we did for my last show. And after years of trying to utilize an ad strategy and find one that would work for my show, my release show for the Saratoga Sessions, which is my last EP, we
Hmm.
sold out that show. And part of our strategy was Facebook ads that actually worked. We found a
Yes.
way to go about it that worked.
Are you familiar with Bandsintown.com?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Always post shows there.
I think that's a good place to also promote. It
Oh,
helps.
cool. Okay,
Yeah, it
great.
does. It does grow your fan base organically through bands in town. I
Sweet.
always recommend that to a lot of the artists I connect with. Are you reaching any radio networks online to get your music out there? And if you do, how do you get there? How do you reach them?
So right now, the Saratoga Sessions, there are 2 songs that are in heavy rotation at WEXT, which is actually a terrestrial radio station. It's a non-com station out of the Albany, New York area. So Chris Wink, the program director there, has been so supportive and awesome with the Saratoga Sessions. So we are on actual radio there. I don't know that I'm on internet radio, and that's not something I've thought about. So maybe you can point us in the right direction on that.
Okay. And basically, let me just look at my yeah, question 8 is been answered. What has been your impression experience of performing at the Big Apple Indie Music Series when you were there back in the day?
Yeah, I think the word that stands out for me is community and connection. And
Yeah.
those are 2 words that guide basically everything I do. So nowadays, I'm having more fun creating and playing music than I ever did when I was
Hmm.
younger. Because when I was younger, I was so inside of this mindset that it was like me doing it. It's all me doing everything. And
Hmm.
now, even though logistically that's still kind of the case, I mean, again, I still uh I'm currently an independent, unmanaged, not signed artist who is successfully going to create song projects and videos and shows on my own terms with whoever I want to work with.
Right.
And so you're right that there's a certain triumph and a certain freedom in that. Um, but the beginning of every project for me is a question of who do I want to bring in? What kind of community and connection do I want to build around this? So
Hmm.
back to TBAIMS, like that's what I remember was that, I would walk into the space and I would see some people that I knew, and it was just awesome to get to reconnect with them and hear about what they were up to. And then there'd be all these new people that I didn't know, and there was a total joy in getting to know who they were, getting to hear and see other artists that I didn't know yet.
Hmm.
And then the honor of getting to play my own songs for those people. And, maybe through that, I made some new connections for collaborators or just fans, people that would actually come out and would
Right.
say, "Hey, I like what you're doing and I want to hear more of it." So
Hmm.
that's what I remember and really am grateful for.
Okay. So my last question is kind of one that I put together because based on what I'm finding, at least down in my market, I find most venues really don't want to pay what the artist is worth to perform, especially if they have a band and you got to compensate a 5, 6, 7 piece band with the artist. So to help me and view and potential venues out there, what do you think is a realistic amount that should be paid for, say, a 90-minute set or a 60-minute set for that matter, that should be accepted, by these venues?
Yeah. I mean, that's as you already know, that's a question that we could go on about for a long time, and certainly any venue representative would have their thoughts about it too.
Yeah.
So I kind of see that from different angles. So certainly I see it from the perspective of an artist where I have experienced the feeling of, hey, the experience I'm bringing in is a high value experience, and what you're saying you can pay sounds like it's not even going to pay for the gas, for my band to get there and back. So I've
Right.
definitely had that experience, and occasionally still do. And I personally decline those gigs, like I feel like there has to be a mutual understanding of the value of live music, and certainly live original music.
Yes.
And if the venue or the promoter doesn't have that, then hey, God bless. Like, I hope you find what you need to find. I've certainly grown beyond that, so that's not a game that I want to play anymore. On the other hand, I serve on the board of a fantastic nonprofit venue called Cafe Lena here in Saratoga Springs. So I have some visibility into the perspective around exactly what you're talking about, booking artists and how much do those artists get guaranteed. And all of that, I know that you know this, but for some of the listeners and viewers out there, it's a very nuanced formula, which is not a formula, but it's sort of like a nuanced graph of things like, how well known is the artist, and does the venue believe that if they put this artist into their space, that the audience locally is actually going to pay to come out and see them.
Right.
Because like if it's a local thing, then the venue is maybe primarily in charge of getting butts in seats, so to speak. And they have to believe that they can do that and recoup their investment in the artist. What I've tried to do, and I think successfully have done, certainly on the last few shows as an artist, is I make sure the venue knows that I am stepping up to partner with them on the promotion, that I'm not just expecting to show up and, play, and I should get paid whatever I want to get paid. And you guys should make sure there's people there to see me. I say, hey, let's work together on creating co-hosted social posts. Again, like I personally will put in some money to ads, so that's something that not a lot of artists will necessarily do. And I'm not talking a lot of money, I'm talking maybe like $50 to like $200 per show. And if my potential on a show is a few $1,000s, then that's not a bad investment,
No.
to make sure that that show is going to sell. And to really show the venue that we're partners here. And that, I'm not just holding my hand out and saying, make sure I get paid, and I'll just show up and do whatever the heck I do on your stage, and you should just feel lucky about that.
Right.
Yeah. So I know this is not answering your question, but I feel like
I think it varies on the venue and location too. And also, I guess from the venue's point of view, if you have a fan base that you could bring in, that's one thing. But if you're from outside the area, may not have a fan base. And those are the different, different things that we have to all consider when booking somebody.
So that's something that I think, one of the ways that I've tried to address that. So for instance, like if I were coming down to the, Tampa, Clearwater, St. Pete area, we're looking at, okay, we've got a venue. It's a great venue for, the singer-songwriter thing that I'm doing. And let's just say that just for the sake of this hypothesis, the theoretical conversation, that I am going to bring my band, right? Like we want to bring drums, bass, and a guitar, keyboard combination player. I want to bring 3 people with me. Okay. So like, what are we looking at now? Obviously we're looking at, flights and hotels for players. And we're looking at, what kind of show, like if I brought down the exact show that I sold out at Cafe Lena, I already know it's an amazing show, and I already know that it entertains people. And we literally have that social proof. We have that feedback. We have physical surveys that we've collected from the audience, as well as like on-camera testimonials. So those are the kinds of things that I would show to a venue and say, you can already be assured off the bat that you're not taking a huge risk on a quality performance, because here's the video. You're not taking a risk on, audiences are not going to like this, because here's the proof that they will. But I still understand that the venue thinks, yeah, but how are we going to sell you in our market? And that's when things like, you already know this about me, but like things like, okay, like I've gotten to work with the Goo Goo Dolls and Chris Bodie and Billy Joel and 10,000 Maniacs. And, you start kind of like utilizing those
connections,
success markers, that you've had. And now the venue can utilize that to go get press and media. Maybe they can, with their local connections, the venue / promoter can help get me on the radio locally, or maybe they can help get, you know, some interviews. And the other thing that I like to do, which is, it takes a little more work, but it's often really worth it, is to create it kind of exactly what you did, John, where you create not only a show, like not only are we going to show up and play, but maybe the night before, the night after, we're going to host an artist gathering, you know, and that helps to bring the community together. It helps to bring more people out to the show. If the venue is open to hosting that in their space, then it also brings people into their space who are now buying food and drink. If it's that kind of a place, you know, so that's what I'm always looking for, is like, not just, hey, how do I get on the stage and play, but how do we make this a win for the whole community, meaning sort of the triangle of like artist, venue / promoter, and audience, you know, community, how do we bring community together? So that's sort of how I approach the idea of, you know, getting booked in a market where I don't really have a touring history.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to share now. I want to share some connections for you for your music, and I'm going to just hit the share screen here. For anyone watching, this is Cassandra's website here, CassandraKubinski.com. And then we also have her Facebook. You can connect with her on Facebook. You have quite a good following there, over 13,000 people there.
Yeah.
And finally, YouTube, which you have quite a few thousand followers is there as well, subscribers. And that's on that. So that's just what I wanted to share that with everyone.
Cool. Thanks.
I want to thank you for taking the time to talk with me today. You're my very first interview, so it's a learning curve for me. There was a little thing that popped up at the 10-minute thing that said, you know, because I'm only on the regular Zoom, not the
right.
But other than that,
well, that's great. Listen, if anybody has actually watched till the end of this interview and this conversation, then you get extra thumbs up, extra high five. You know, I know we're all super busy and no one has an attention span these days. So thanks for hanging out with us.
Yep, I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. And I'm going to just stop the recording. Where is that? Oh, it stops by itself. All right. Well, okay, Cassandra, I'll be in touch with you. Thank you so much again.
All right. Thanks, John, and congratulations on all of these amazing years. And thanks for everything that you've contributed to us as artists.
Appreciate it. Take care now. Bye-bye now.
All right. See you.